Are you ready for this? We're diving deep into Alibaba today. It's fascinating, really, especially with their earnings report coming out soon, February 20th to be exact.
Yeah, the timing is definitely interesting.
What I find really interesting is this. Alibaba's been trading so much lower than like other U.S. tech companies.
It's almost as if it's being treated like a traditional retail business, not a tech giant.
It really does make you wonder, doesn't it? Like, is the market stuck in the past? Still thinking of them as just an e-commerce company.
The reports we've been looking at definitely suggest that. A lot of investors just don't seem to grasp how much Alibaba has poured into AI and cloud computing.
It's almost like they have a case of mistaken identity.
Yeah, exactly. There was this one report from Morgan Stanley. They made a pretty strong argument that global investors are systematically underestimating Chinese tech innovation across the board, especially when it comes to cutting-edge technologies.
And they specifically called out how the market seems so fixated on Alibaba's e-commerce business.
Right, like they're missing the bigger picture. The report even mentioned non-fundamental pressures, probably hinting at geopolitical stuff, further affecting their valuation.
And then, just to shake things up even more, you have the rise of DeepSeek.
Oh yeah, that was a game changer.
This Chinese AI startup, they launched this open source large language model, and it just blows everyone away. Near state-of-the-art performance right out of the gate.
And that really challenged this whole narrative that you need massive amounts of capital to make any headway in AI development.
I mean, their costs were way lower.
Way lower, and they still managed to achieve these incredible results. It really forced the global market to kind of take a step back and reevaluate what they thought they knew about Chinese AI.
Almost overnight, the perception shifted.
Exactly. And then, not to be outdone, Alibaba Cloud unveils their own advanced model. Qwen 2.5 Max.
This one uses a mixture of experts architecture, right? Mo?
Yep. Basically, it's like having a whole team of specialists within the model, each one trained on a different part of the task.
So it's more efficient.
Much more. And it allows them to tackle really complex problems. And the results speak for themselves. Breakthroughs across the board, especially in things like math and coding. Right now, it ranks among the top models globally.
It's wild how quickly things are moving.
Absolutely. And here's another interesting twist. Alibaba decided to make Qwen open source.
Which, of course, is a pretty big contrast to OpenAI's approach. They've been keeping things pretty locked down.
It is, and it makes you wonder if Alibaba's going for a more democratized approach to AI development,
And this shift in perception, it hasn't gone unnoticed. After the Chinese New Year, we saw a real surge in those Hong Kong and mainland Chinese tech stocks. Alibaba was right at the front of that rally.
Morgan Stanley even came out and basically said, hey, investors, you need to rethink your position on these Chinese tech companies. You're underestimating their potential.
And it's not just Morgan Stanley. You've got Goldman Sachs, Bank of America. They're all starting to sing the same tune. It feels like we're seeing a repeat of that 2014 moment, when Alibaba had their IPO and suddenly everyone was pouring money into Chinese tech.
It really does feel that way. That renewed interest, it's palpable, and it's all driven by this recognition that China's AI capabilities are truly world-class.
And it's not just the financial world taking notice either. Apple, of all companies, seems to be paying close attention to what Alibaba's doing with AI.
Oh yeah, that partnership is definitely raising some eyebrows. Reports are saying that Apple's decided to team up with Alibaba, specifically to develop AI features for Chinese iPhone users.
Which, let's be honest, is a pretty big endorsement of Alibaba's Tongyi Quanwen model.
Huge endorsement, especially when you consider that Apple, despite having this really intricate global AI strategy, they've kind of struggled to gain traction in the Chinese market.
Because Chinese consumers, they want those cutting-edge AI features. Features that the iPhone, at least right now, just doesn't have.
Exactly. And from what we've heard, Apple didn't just jump into this partnership. They apparently considered working with other big players in Chinese tech. Baidu, Tencent, ByteDance, even DeepSeek.
But they went with Alibaba's Qwen model in the end, citing its technical strength and its potential to be a real commercial success.
It's a smart move on their part, and for Alibaba, it could be a game changer. Think about it. They're suddenly getting access to over 200 million Chinese iOS users. That's a massive potential customer base for their AI model.
Talk about a customer acquisition strategy.
Right. It's a huge advantage. This partnership could really solidify Alibaba's position as a leader in AI, not just in China, but potentially globally.
And this brings us to another really important piece of this whole puzzle. Alibaba Cloud.
Yes, Alibaba Cloud. This is where things get even more interesting.
Because, Alibaba Cloud often gets overshadowed by the e-commerce side of the business. But with DeepSeek's success and now Apple's endorsement, it feels like people might finally start to take notice.
It's definitely possible. There was a report from Goosen Securities, and they made a really intriguing point. They argued that DeepSeek's breakthroughs could actually accelerate the development of all of China's cloud providers, you know?
So they could close the technology gap with the U.S. even faster than anyone expected.
Exactly. And that speed is crucial because we're not just talking about a little bump in demand for AI cloud services. We're talking about a global surge.
And in the U.S., we're already seeing the effects of that surge. Companies like Google, Microsoft, Amazon, they're pouring billions, literally billions of dollars into their cloud infrastructure, expanding data centers, creating all these new AI services.
And they're seeing massive returns on those investments because the demand is just skyrocketing.
So what you're saying is that DeepSeek's emergence is like a canary in the coal mine. It's signaling that a similar wave of demand is about to hit China.
Exactly. And Alibaba Cloud, with its already robust infrastructure and all the investments they've been making in AI, they're in a prime position to ride that wave.
So Alibaba Cloud, the sleeping giant of this whole story.
Potentially. If they play their cards right, they could become absolutely dominant in the Chinese AI cloud market. And that has implications far beyond China's borders.
It sounds like this upcoming earnings report on February 20th could be a real turning point for them.
Absolutely. Investors are going to be laser focused on how Alibaba plans to allocate their resources. Are they going to prioritize AI and cloud growth, or will they stick with things like stock buybacks?
Their decisions could signal a pretty major shift in their overall strategic direction, and that could completely change how the market views them.
It's like we're at the edge of this major shift in the entire tech landscape, and Alibaba's next move could be the catalyst that sets everything in motion.
It's a really exciting time to be watching this space.
Absolutely fascinating.
So we've talked about Alibaba's potential, this incredible rise of Chinese AI, and this partnership with Apple that, frankly, nobody saw coming. But to really get a handle on how big this shift could be, I think we need to take a closer look at Alibaba Cloud itself.
Yeah, Alibaba Cloud definitely deserves more attention than it usually gets. It often gets overshadowed by the e-commerce side of things, but the potential there is huge.
And I keep thinking back to DeepSeek. It's like their success could have this ripple effect across that whole Chinese cloud landscape.
That's a great point. Remember that report from Goosen Securities? They were saying that those breakthroughs DeepSeek made, those could actually help all of China's cloud providers develop much faster.
So they could close that technology gap with the U.S. even quicker than anyone thought.
Exactly. And speed is key here because we're not talking about some gradual increase in demand for AI cloud services, right? We're talking about this massive global surge.
Yeah, and we're always seeing how that's playing out in the U.S. I mean, companies like Google and Microsoft, they're just pouring money into their cloud infrastructure. Billions and billions of dollars.
And they're not doing that just for fun, right? They're seeing the demand firsthand. It's exploding and they're racing to keep up.
So DeepSeek, it's like they're the early warning system, right? They're showing us that the same thing is about to happen in China.
That's a great way to put it. And Alibaba Cloud, they're in a really strong position to take advantage of all of this. They've got the infrastructure. They've been investing in AI for a while now.
Alibaba Cloud, the sleeping giant, huh?
Potentially, yeah. They play their cards right, and they could be the ones calling the shots in the Chinese AI cloud market. And you know what that means. That has global implications. This isn't just a China story.
So it feels like this earnings report on February 20th, that's going to be a must-watch event.
Oh, absolutely. Investors are going to be looking for any clues they can get about where Alibaba's priorities lie. Are they going to double down on AI and cloud growth, or are they going to focus on other things like stock buybacks?
Because those decisions, they send a message, right? They tell us what their long-term vision is.
Exactly. And depending on what they say, we could see a real shift in how the entire market values them. It's like, are they going to be seen as this e-commerce company that dabbles in AI, or are they going to be seen as a true AI powerhouse?
It's almost like we're standing at this fork in the road. And the path they choose, it could have ramifications for the entire tech sector.
It's an incredibly dynamic situation, a lot of moving parts. And it's going to be fascinating to see how it all plays out.
You know, it really feels like we're at this crossroads in the tech world. For so long, Silicon Valley has been calling all the shots. But things are changing.
Yeah, and I think what we're seeing with Alibaba, with DeepSeek, it's just the tip of the iceberg.
Like, it's not even about which companies are winning or losing anymore. It's something much bigger than that.
It's like a fundamental shift in how we even think about innovation. Like, where does it come from? Who's driving it? And in the end, who benefits from it?
And, you know, when I think about all this potential that's bubbling up, it's not just for companies or investors.
Exactly. This could have a real impact on everyone. Everyone who can harness this technology, I mean.
So I guess what I'm trying to say is it's not enough to just sit back and watch. We have to be active participants in all of this.
Absolutely. And that starts with being informed. You have to be willing to question the old assumptions, to really embrace the possibilities that come with all of this change.
Well, you've definitely given us a lot to think about today.
My pleasure. It's been a fascinating conversation.
It's clear that Alibaba's story is far from over. I mean, this earnings report, it could be a real defining moment for them.
It could be huge, not just for Alibaba either. It could impact the entire tech sector, globally even.
And as we wait to see what happens, I think the most important thing is to stay open-minded, right?
Absolutely. Be ready to question the old narratives, and don't be afraid to recognize the opportunities that are emerging.
It's easy to get stuck in the past, but the tech world, it moves so fast. We have to adapt. We have to evolve with it.
And that means being willing to learn, to explore, and to be open to new ideas, new perspectives.
Well said. This has been an incredible deep dive into Alibaba and all these larger trends that are shaping the future of technology. We've talked about this potential for a major shift driven by AI, by cloud computing, and the possibility of a whole new wave of innovation with companies like Alibaba right at the forefront.
It's definitely an exciting time to be following all of this, and we encourage all of you listening to keep digging deeper, to keep asking questions, and to keep exploring this ever-changing world of technology.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive. We hope you found it insightful. We hope it got you thinking. And we look forward to having you back next time as we continue our exploration into this incredible world of cutting-edge technology.